The year was 1900, a beacon of light, steadfast and true, cut through the impenetrable darkness of the North Atlantic. It stood on Island Moor, one of the remote Flannan Isles, a cluster of jagged, uninhabited rocks off the west coast of Scotland. For months on end, 3 men lived there, isolated, their sole purpose to tend that light. They were the keepers: James Ducat, a seasoned veteran; Thomas Marshall, steady and reliable; and Donald MacArthur, a relief man with a reputation for being hot-headed. Their lives were a symphony of routine, an endless cycle of oiling mechanisms, trimming wicks, and logging observations. A lonely existence, perhaps, but one vital to the ships navigating those treacherous waters. On December 15th, 1900, the steamer Archtor, en route to Leith, passed the Flannan Isles. Its captain, an experienced seaman named Holman, peered through the heavy weather, searching for the familiar flash of the Island Moor light. Nothing. Just an oppressive, unbroken darkness. He dismissed it at first. Perhaps a squall obscured his view. But as the Archtor steamed further, the dread settled in. The light remained dark. An urgent message was dispatched. The Island Moor lighthouse, an infallible sentinel, had gone out. The news reached the mainland, but the unforgiving December gales churned the sea into a frenzy. For days, no vessel could safely approach the Isles. The relief tender, the Hesperus, carrying replacement keeper Joseph Moore and supplies, was forced to wait, anchored in a sheltered bay, buffeted by the storm. Every passing hour intensified the unease. Lighthouse protocols were strict, absolute. The light never went out, not unless something catastrophic had occurred. It wasn't until December 26th, 11 long days after the Archtor's initial sighting, that the weather finally relented enough for the Hesperus to attempt its approach. The crew watched the island grow larger on the horizon. The lighthouse stood stark, silent, and utterly lifeless against the grey sky. No flag flew, no welcoming figures appeared at the landing. A profound sense of wrongness settled over the men of the Hesperus. It was far too quiet. This was not the Island Moor they knew. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, was the first to land. He stepped onto the concrete slipway, the only sound the mournful cry of gulls and the relentless crash of waves against the rocks. He called out, his voice swallowed by the vast emptiness. No reply. He walked towards the storage shed, a heavy iron gate, usually left open for easy access to supplies, was tightly shut and locked from the inside. A chill snaked its way down his spine. Inside the shed, everything was in order, but 2 sets of oilskins, belonging to Ducat and Marshall, were missing. MacArthur's was still hanging on its peg. Moore proceeded to the main lighthouse tower. The door, too, was unlocked. He pushed it open, and the silence inside was profound, almost deafening. He climbed the winding stairs, each step echoing through the hollow structure, his heart pounding a rhythm against the oppressive stillness. The living quarters were even more unsettling. A half-eaten meal sat on the table, plates cleared but uneaten food still present, as if the men had simply walked away mid-bite. An overturned chair lay on the floor. Everything else was meticulously tidy. No sign of struggle, no disarray. It was as if time itself had paused, then moved on without its inhabitants. Moore continued his ascent to the lantern room. The lamp was clean, polished, and refilled, ready to be lit, but it was cold. Beside it, the lighthouse logbook lay open. Moore's eyes scanned the last few entries. They spoke of ferocious gales, winds unlike anything the keepers had experienced. On December 12th, Marshall had recorded storm past description. Then, a chilling entry from the same day. James Ducat very quiet, Thomas Marshall crying, and later, Donald MacArthur crying and quiet. The final entry, dated December 15th, simply read, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." The entries painted a picture of men terrified, possibly losing their minds amidst an unimaginable storm. But what Moore saw outside, what the Hesperus had weathered, did not match these descriptions. The log entries spoke of a storm before the Archtor had even passed, days before the Hesperus had been held back by foul weather. The weather around the Isles had been relatively calm in the days leading up to December 15th. What storm were they describing? And why were two men seemingly reduced to tears and one so quiet? The investigation, led by Robert Muirhead, the Northern Lighthouse Board superintendent, found no definitive answers. Every inch of the island was scoured. No bodies, no wreckage, no evidence of a boat having been launched. The official report concluded that a giant wave, an exceptional swell, must have swept the men away as they tried to secure equipment on the western landing platform. This theory, however, leaves gaping holes. Why were two sets of oilskins missing, but not MacArthur's? Why leave a meal unfinished? If MacArthur had been in the lighthouse, why would he venture out in a storm without his protective gear, especially if the others were already caught? Another theory suggested a psychological breakdown, a fight perhaps, escalating to violence, leading to one keeper killing the others, then taking his own life by jumping into the sea. But there was no evidence of a struggle, no blood, no weapon. The men were seasoned professionals, accustomed to isolation. Could all three have simultaneously succumbed to such a dark madness? The log entries are often cited, but their veracity, given the actual weather conditions, is questionable. Some whisper of the supernatural, of ancient island spirits, or even a sea monster. The Flannan Isles have a history of strange folklore, but the board, pragmatic and grounded, could not entertain such notions. For decades, the mystery of the Flannan Isles has persisted. The official explanation of a rogue wave, while plausible for one man, strains credulity for three, especially given the various conflicting details. No trace of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, or Donald MacArthur was ever found. Their families endured a lifetime of unanswered questions, of imagining their last moments on that desolate rock. The lighthouse was eventually automated, its light now shining without human hands to tend it. But the remote Eilean Moor remains, a silent, craggy sentinel, forever guarding the secret of the three keepers. What force, natural or otherwise, could erase three men so completely, leaving only an overturned chair and a chilling, deceptive log? The ocean never gives back its secrets willingly, and on Island Moor, the silence continues to hold its breath.